Known for its small-town charm, the city of Port Coquitlam was named BC's third most livable city. Could be chalked up to its quaint historic downtown or the number of family-oriented services, but its low property taxes are not something to be overlooked either. But Poco's mayor believes new provincial mandates to construct more housing could destroy his hometown vibes. We sit down with Mayor Brad West to find out why he thinks these new mandates could be disastrous for his community. Mayor Brad West, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you taking the time. Just to start, how would you describe the state of Port Coquitlam right now?
Well, I think people feel pretty positive about the direction our city is heading. We've introduced new services like curbside glass pickup, a large item pickup. We've brought on improvements to parks and playgrounds. You know, we've done a whole bunch of things, all while maintaining the lowest average property taxes of all the municipalities in Metro Vancouver. So, you know, what's not to love about that, right?
So you've mentioned some of the accomplishments. When you look back on 2025, what are some of the main highlights that stick out to you?
Probably the Terry Fox projects that the city unveiled. We worked really closely with the Fox family to unveil a magnificent Terry Fox sculpture and statue in front of the Port Coquitlam Community Centre. And we also unveiled an inspiring local champions exhibit within the community centre, which really tells the story of Terry as a young boy growing up in Poco, just like any other kid. And so, you know, there's such an immense sense of pride in being the hometown of Terry Fox. And so that was probably a highlight, just bringing the community together, having members of the Fox family there and unveiling that. You know, I think in this community in particular, we have a special responsibility to make sure that Terry's story is told to the next generation. And so projects like that really help us do that.
It sounds like it's a very tight-knit community and there's a lot of positive that goes on. With the positive, there's also a lot of challenges. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges that the city is facing right now, or what keeps you up at night?
This has been a tough year for a number of people. You know, the economy is depressed. People are finding it harder and harder to get by. City's looking for ways to try and ensure that we're keeping affordability front and center. You know, as I mentioned, lowest property taxes of all the municipalities in the region. You know, another thing that we did was make all of our outdoor pools free for our residents. I got a ton of emails from people, really heartfelt emails actually, about you know, how they really appreciate having an activity that they could do during the summer with their kids that was free. So I think those challenges around affordability are very front and center. Probably the very specific issue that I'm focused on in the municipality is infrastructure. We have gone through a period of very significant population growth in Canada, in British Columbia, and in Metro Vancouver specifically. To my mind, it's actually been incredibly unsustainable. And I think the federal government needs to take responsibility for the fact that over a very short period of time, they really had unchecked population growth. They had immigration policies that didn't take into account our ability to welcome new people in a sustainable manner. But all of that has put tons of pressure on our infrastructure. And this infrastructure is incredibly costly to upgrade and replace. You talk a lot about, you know, our roads, our social infrastructure like our schools and hospitals, but what I really worry about as well is the infrastructure that you can't see, all the stuff that's underground, all of our utilities, our sewer, our water system. It is really, really challenging to see the pressure that gets placed on that with all this population growth, and the requirement to upgrade is incredibly expensive. That's why, along with a number of other mayors in the region, recently raised concerns about the province's housing legislation, because it takes us from a place where the city could manage growth more carefully and concentrate it in areas where we have the infrastructure in place to manage additional housing units, and it just kind of vomits housing density everywhere. And so, again, the challenge with that is it triggers very expensive infrastructure upgrade requirements in a way that is not very thoughtful or considered, without a plan, just kind of popping up all over the place. And so that's been a big concern. And I think it's going to require all levels of government to come together and have a real partnership to be able to address that concern around infrastructure costs. Right now, municipalities have basically been told they're on their own, and that's certainly not going to cut it.
When City News Connect returns, we will continue our conversation with Mayor West about his issue with provincial housing mandates. We are continuing our conversation with Port Coquitlam's Mayor Brad West about provincial housing mandates and why he thinks they will damage his community. You've been pretty outspoken about this concept of, from the province, not having a one-size-fits-all, essentially. Can you elaborate on that?
Port Coquitlam, for example, is a community that is bound by 3 rivers. There's a very large railway that runs through the middle of our community. There's a part of our community that's in the ALR. So there are unique characteristics to this community, just like every other community. And those have to be taken into consideration when you're planning how your community is going to grow and develop and where housing is going to go. For decades and decades, generations in fact, those are decisions that have been made here by democratically elected local city councils. And what the province has done is one of the most remarkable and, in my opinion, unacceptable power grabs that we've ever seen in the province. They said those decisions aren't going to be made here in a local community. They're going to be made in Victoria. They're going to be made by bureaucrats who probably couldn't find Port Coquitlam on a map, and yet they're going to dictate to us and to everyone else how our community is going to grow and develop. And so I think that that's really, really troublesome. And I think we're starting to see the impacts of that in all of our communities in the region.
Are you frustrated with the province?
I'm frustrated that they don't listen. Myself and other mayors have tried over many years on many different issues to provide feedback, to look for meaningful consultation and partnership, and that hasn't been reciprocated. Look at the housing legislation. It has been one of the most radical departures from what has been, again, decades of very thoughtful community planning. They rolled it out without talking to a single person. They didn't talk to any mayors, they didn't talk to any city councillors, they didn't talk to any city planners. They came up with this idea behind closed doors, largely in discussion with developers, and then they rolled it out. And this seems to be a really unfortunate habit of the government.
Housing is a big issue in many cities, along with a variety of other topics. What are you hoping to see in 2026? Are you planning to run again?
I am planning to run again. And what I hope to see in Port Coquitlam is a continued focus on ensuring that the municipality is meeting its responsibility to its residents. So, we have a saying here, which has been our mantra since I've been elected mayor: get the basics right. And so, from our capital plan, which is invested in the responsibilities of the municipality, from the conditions of our roads to the cleanliness of our parks, playgrounds, rec centers, the best snow removal in Metro Vancouver. That's been our focus. For us, the lens that we've applied to a lot of our decision making is ensuring that Port Coquitlam is the best place in the province to raise a family. And so those are the things that really motivate me and what I want to see for this community. I think we've made a lot of great progress but there's more things to do, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work hard for the people of this community.
Going back to 2022, when you won your term, your second term, nobody ran against you. Do you see a situation like that playing out again?
I hope not. I actually love elections.
You want a little healthy competition.
I think it's great. I don't think it's a good thing to have people acclaimed, and I can't predict whether that will happen or not. But I think having elections is important. I think democracy is really important, and so I'm certainly preparing for an election. I'm looking forward to being out there campaigning. You know, for me, I don't think of what I do as being like, okay, well, there's the governing period and then there's an election period. You know, I just kind of stay the same throughout, which is constantly engaging with people. And Port Coquitlam's great that way. I can be out at Costco and I'll get more feedback in an hour or so than you could ever hope to have. My wife doesn't always love it because sometimes you got to get in and out of there quickly, but you know, we're very much part of this community. So whether it's being at the community center, whether it's being at sports fields, you know, grocery store, just out and about, you know, I'm always talking to people about what's going on in Port Coquitlam and getting feedback from them. That is the job.
When City News Connect returns, we will learn about why Mayor West believes industrial lands are central to opportunities in his city. Mayor Brad West spent some time sharing his thoughts with us on why industrial lands are so important to his community. You've mentioned a lot the growth of the city and just how many people are coming here. And with that, there needs to be jobs and there needs to be places for people to live. Have you been able to help with the creation of some new jobs and housing, and how?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right in that if you're going to be a complete community, it's not just about having a place for people to go sleep at night, right? You have to have places for people to go to work, and particularly, I hope, to go to work in high quality employment that provides really good wages that you can support a family on. And one of the ways a city can contribute to that is by ensuring that it maintains its industrial land base. And if you look across the Metro Vancouver region, one of the things that has happened over the last number of years is we've had a very alarming conversion of industrial land to residential uses. And it's created a shortage of industrial land throughout Metro Vancouver. One of the things I'm incredibly proud of is that in Port Coquitlam, we have not allowed that conversion of industrial land. And what it means is that we've been able to attract some pretty significant employers to the community over the last number of years. Saputo was located in Burnaby, and their site has been converted to high-rise condos in Burnaby. And so they need a new home, and they found it in Port Coquitlam. And they've built a state-of-the-art dairy processing plant there, employing upwards of 400 people, high-quality unionized jobs, you know, the type of job you can pay a mortgage on, you can support a family on. That only happens because there's a place for them to go and make that investment. We could have easily said, oh yeah, no, turn that into condos, especially when the real estate market was so hot and, you know, people were wanting to turn everything into condos. But that's such a short-sighted decision, and I'm really proud that we resisted the pressure to do that. And so, you know, Port Coquitlam, as a percentage of our land base, has one of the highest industrial land bases in the region. So that certainly contributes to producing high quality employment. The other thing it also contributes to is that lower property tax rate, because the obligation of property taxes is spread not just on residential units, but also on some of the larger industrial land pieces as well. And so we're certainly going to continue that. One of the things that we're looking at is how do we make best use of the industrial land that we do have. So can you intensify some of the land use there to allow more employment to be created out of it? We're starting from a good place, and I'm looking forward to doing more on that.
How do you balance the need for new development and wanting to welcome more people into your community without having be, like you said, all high rises and looking around and saying, this isn't the city I used to know?
That is, I think, one of the biggest cross pressures that's happening throughout Metro Vancouver. And I think in Port Coquitlam, we have done a pretty good job of achieving that. You don't see a tower of high rises in this community. We haven't seen that. We have seen over the last decade, certainly a number of new housing units be created. We have focused primarily on ground-orientated housing. So our bread and butter has been townhomes, which I think is a fantastic form of housing. It's certainly where we got our start as a family, right? It's suitable for families. I mean, this notion that people are going to be able to raise a family and raise a kid in these 400 square foot condos that they're building is just ridiculous. I don't think it's healthy. So we focused on ground-orientated housing, townhomes, and we have seen growth and development and an increase in population, but have done it in a way that I think has allowed us to maintain the character of our community as well. And that's why I think these decisions should be made locally, not by Victoria. And one of the really concerning consequences of the province's housing legislation is that we haven't seen an application for townhomes since the provincial government passed that into law. They've basically killed the townhouse market, at least in this community. And that's a big concern to me.
Mayor West also has concerns about the BC Supreme Court decision recognizing Cowichan Tribe's Aboriginal title to land enrichment. When CityNews Connect returns, we will find out how it could impact Port Coquitlam. Mayor West has concerns about the BC Supreme Court decision recognizing Cowichan Tribe's Aboriginal title to land enrichment. He's worried about how that precedent might affect the fee simple title to land owned by his city. The BC Supreme Court decision in August that granted the Cowichan Tribe's rights to land enrichment. There's been a lot of talk about that, sparking a lot of uncertainty for private property owners. Are you worried about that happening here in Port Coquitlam, and how do you protect the citizens from losing their home?
In Port Coquitlam, we in fact do have a land claim that has placed on the city. And this happened back in 2016, actually prior to my time as mayor. And the city has been working through this. It's a multi-party land claim, so really the province is the party that has been leading a process of negotiation. But our position has been really clear from day one, which is we're going to defend municipal ownership of land. The land that the city is subject to a land claim for is owned by the municipality in a fee simple form of ownership. So it's not Crown land. It wasn't provided to the city by the Crown. The city acquired it. And again, our ownership of it is fee simple. And it's an incredibly important piece of property. We're talking about Gates Park, which is the city's premier athletic fields. It sees tens of thousands of people use it for soccer, baseball, field lacrosse, tons of activity going on there. So we've been incredibly clear that we will defend our ownership of that property, and we're going to defend private property rights within our jurisdiction. This is an area where I don't think we've been particularly well served by the province not being very transparent about the consequences of various laws that they have passed, and what it is that they want to accomplish under the auspices of reconciliation. I think for most people, we believe that we do need to get to a better place with Indigenous peoples and full participation in the economic life of the province, and ensure that people are treated fairly and with respect in ways that did not happen in the past. But at the same time, because the province, I don't think, has been clear about what they mean by reconciliation, when you get a decision that says, well, fee simple property, private property, is in question, people have a real reaction to that. So I think we need to have a lot more transparency and a lot more clarity from the province on where they're taking us.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us, and best of luck in the next election.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching City News Connect. I'm Kate Walker. Have a great night.